On October 5, 2022, Leilani Simon called 911 to report her 20-month-old son was missing from his indoor playpen at their home outside of Savannah, Georgia. She said that she woke up around 9:30 a.m. and found the door of the house open with her son, Quinton, gone.
I woke up about 11 o'clock and my husband was working about 6, so between a 3-hour period, somehow the front door is unlocked and my son is not in his playpen.
Police searched the family's Chatham County neighborhood for multiple days before announcing Quinton was dead and Leilani was the primary suspect. The Chatham County Police Chief, Jeff Hatley, believed she was a suspect from the start. Leilani gave a number of interviews to the police and FBI. First, she said that she was home and in bed at midnight before discovering Quinton was missing at 9 a.m. Another interview, Leilani accused her ex, Henry Moss, Quinton's father, of being involved. However, he was cleared by 2 p.m. that same day. Henry, who has 2 daughters with another woman, said he met Leilani at a swimming hole in 2019. They started dating and she became pregnant with Quinton in 2020. She initially kept it a secret. She didn't tell me until months later that she was pregnant, he recalled. He said Leilani went to Alabama to give birth to Quinton in January of 2021. So his name wasn't on the original birth certificate. She then returned home. He described her as a cheater, liar, and a homemaker who spent her days snorting cocaine and smoking marijuana. She did cocaine every day, all day, as much as she could, he said. He also stated Leilani exhibited a violent temper and would lash out at him when she was craving more drugs. And when she didn't get money from him to get drugs, she'd go crazy and would even sleep with other men to get cash for drugs. The tipping point in their relationship came in February 2021, after Henry was served with an arrest warrant for breaking into a trailer home back in June 2020. Leilani had already been arrested for the crime. However, she blamed Henry. Leilani allegedly cut her way through a screen window and stole $50 from a coin jar. The 40-year-old victim who owned the trailer called the cops. When asked who he thought was responsible, he pointed out Leilani, who at the time lived next door. When law enforcement spoke with Leilani, she admitted to entering the camper and taking all of the change from inside the coin jar. But she claimed Henry convinced her to help him since he couldn't fit through the window. Leilani was charged with first-degree burglary. It was pleaded down to criminal trespass, and she was given 12 months probation. She was still on that probation and another probationary period for a 2021 theft in North Carolina when Quinton disappeared. Later that summer, a woman in another trailer had her black and white Harley-Davidson wallet stolen. The owner confronted Leilani, who blamed Henry again. But the report pointed out that the victim didn't witness the theft and no arrest was made. Henry and his best friend recorded her admitting she framed him. At the time, Quinton was about 7 weeks old, and Henry was still questioning whether he was the actual father. He wanted a DNA test. I'll keep the baby and take care of him and all, so if he's mine, he can live with me. I'll take care of him. I promise you that, he told Leilani. Leilani initially told cops that Quinton must have been abducted from his bed because their front door was left open. When police informed her that her home security system indicated that her door was not open until 9:20 a.m., she claimed the system could not be working properly. Leilani permitted her phone to be examined by police, and when she was asked about Craig, her drug dealer, she denied there was anything going on between them. However, text exchanges revealed she was getting it on with Craig, aka Red. When she was confronted with information that her car was photographed around a mobile home park the morning of Quinton's disappearance, she explained in 2 recorded interviews she left briefly during the night to meet Red to make a $20 payment for weed. She also claimed that she left the house a second time after 1 a.m. to obtain oral gel from a friend to soothe her discomfort after getting her wisdom tooth pulled. The friend, Melissa Missy Bray, testified that she never gave oral gel to Leilani and had not seen her since around July of 2022, when she borrowed a gas can, which she never returned. Evidence led investigators to believe Quinton's remains were at a waste management landfill in Chatham County. On November 18, 2022, after weeks sifting through 1.2 million pounds of trash in the landfill, officials found human remains and bones. The remains were sent to the FBI lab in Virginia and later determined to belong to baby Quinton. Lieutenant Foster, who oversaw the search, described the painstaking process of sifting through the tons of compacted garbage. He noted that the search involved 20 to 30 officers daily over several weeks, which the area was kept under 24/7 security to prevent contamination. Eventually, Quinton's remains were found severely damaged by the landfill's compaction process. November the 21st, 2022, Leilani, then 22, was arrested and indicted on 19 counts and faced charges including malice murder, felony murder, concealment of death, and 14 counts of making false statements to police about Quinton's death. The indictment revealed that Leilani left her house on October 4th to meet her drug dealer and left the next morning on October 5th to dump Quinton's body. Surveillance video gathered from neighboring business captures what police say is a vehicle resembling Leilani's car driving into a Azalea mobile home park at 1:17 a.m. and stopping around the dumpsters for about 2 minutes before exiting the park and onto Buckhalter Road, which will eventually lead to her home.
I live in the trailer, the next trailer on the next road over, same side as this, and I came home that morning from delivering newspapers, and I saw some vehicles parked here.
Cars he says he wasn't used to seeing, parked outside of his tenant's trailer. He says he went over to see what was going on.
GBI and FBI agents here, there was 2 vehicles parked here, and they were waiting for the manager to come down. She called me and asked me if I could take the camera off up here. If you look above the window, you'll see the mount is still up there from where the camera was at, and it was pointed toward the trash cans.
Bowman says the police were asking everyone in the area if they had cameras on their homes and were going through the dumpsters repeatedly. He says they stayed for around a week and talked to him as well as other people multiple times.
It was mainly just questions if I had seen anybody around the dumpsters, if I'd seen any strange cars, any strange people walking around. That was I'd say 90 to 95% of the questions that they asked.
The police presence, Bowman says, was very unusual. Though the police wouldn't say what they were there for, people living here had their suspicions. And now that Leilani has been indicted, Bowman says he's relieved to know that the search efforts were successful.
I hope they find out really and truly what happened, because if she did do that, she doesn't deserve to be out with anybody else. She deserves to be behind bars. That's just, I'm sorry, you just don't do that to a child. You don't do that to anybody for that matter, but a child is worst of all.
This contradicted Leilani's claim that she had stopped at a nearby Chevron gas station. Data extracted from her cell phone suggested it was plugged in at 1:13 a.m. and unplugged at 1:26. Prosecutors suggest this would be consistent with her plugging her phone into her car for the period in which she drove to the mobile home park and back home. Data also showed her phone was stationary for a few minutes within the 1:13 to 1:26 a.m. window. When they questioned her about why she traveled to a secluded dumpster at 1 a.m. in the morning, her son went missing, she claimed that she stopped at the mobile home park to dump trash that was smelling up her car. The whole car smelled like shrimp. I was like, what is that smell? I looked and I threw it away. I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. It's just old food, she said. The prosecutor believed Leilani murdered Quinton by assaulting him with an unknown object, then unlawfully concealed his body when she threw him in a dumpster at the mobile home park. Those dumpsters were picked up by garbage trucks and taken to the landfill the same day Quinton's body was allegedly dumped. She throws Quinton's body away like a piece of trash about 1:17 a.m. on the morning of October the 5th, 2022. Detective Lemons, formerly with the Chatham County Police Department, testified about her observations at the home, describing a strong smell of vomit coming from Quinton's playpen and stained bedding. It was clear that Leilani's love for Quinton never existed. A few days before Quinton disappeared, Leilani searched, is it common for a mother to have resentment or even anger towards her child because of the father or another reason? Neighbors and the babysitter testified during trial about how Leilani felt about and treated Quinton compared to his siblings. Melanie Bowling, a former neighbor, testified that Leilani resented Quinton, verbally abused him, and told her more than once she wished she had aborted him. She also recalled Leilani cussing at the children, referring to Quinton as a bastard child. Michelle MacArthur, who babysat Quinton, testified to 3 incidents where Leilani allegedly abused Quinton. Once she witnessed Leilani push Quinton into a pool before she could put floaties on him. Quinton was unable to swim, went underwater, and came up coughing and crying. On another occasion, she spotted Quinton and his older brother in the road unattended. When her daughter, who also babysit Quinton, knocked on the door and told Leilani, Leilani backhanded Quinton in the face. Quinton was knocked down to the concrete head first. She said that she also witnessed Leilani push Quinton after he broke her brother's PlayStation controller. The babysitter told the court that she kept Quinton overnight on a regular basis and that he would be in poor condition when he was dropped off. He would be in a long onesie, poop all over him, and rings around his neck, and he would sometimes smell like rotten milk. She testified that when Leilani returned with food from Bojangles, where she worked at the time, she would feed Zane first and let Quinton whine and fuss before she eventually fed him. She stated that Quinton reacted differently when Leilani would pick up the boys. Quinton would cry, while if Daniel picked him up, he was receptive.
Go ahead. Don't put nothing in your yard.
Go ahead.
This is my baby, not yours.
That's your right, but I
That's
text
my
you.
baby.
I text you and I told you what
That's
was
my
going
baby.
on.
Oh, so now it's my fault. You need to go get him.
Y'all need to get off the property.
I text you. I got your text.
Over and over
I got
again.
the text.
Over and over I asked
I got
you.
the
So
text.
you want to blame me? I don't care about
Go
your
ahead.
text. You
Go
think I'm
ahead.
going to hit you
me.
How do you think I would do that?
Hit me.
Yeah.
the property.
Really?
Because you are.
I'm what?
No one likes
I'm
y'all.
what?
You blame
I'm what? No, I don't blame
Yeah, you
nobody.
did.
I should not have been out of
Yeah,
town.
you did. You shouldn't have.
No, I'm trying to provide.
The ditch. That
I
was
was
the
trying to
ditch.
provide.
I told you.
I was trying to provide. I even
told you.
provided for you, you
Didn't.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't pay for your family, your entire family.
I didn't ask you. I got
Your
text.
entire
I
family.
told you
Keep
not
recording.
to.
Don't take
we
my
got
phone.
Keep recording.
You got
Don't
Good.
take my phone.
Good,
Yeah,
you were
okay,
wrong.
all this on social
You were wrong.
media.
I begged you to help. I begged you to help.
don't
Put
need
that on
nothing.
social media. I begged you to help.
Oh yeah, and I got
begged you to
text,
help.
I text you.
I said, hey, Michelle, please get the
No,
kids.
you're a liar.
Take them. I'll give you
Oh, you're a
300 a
liar.
week.
Well, I'm about to put it all
I'm a
over.
liar.
I'm about to put.
I'm a liar.
I'm about to put it all over.
Good.
All
Good, because
over.
you're awful to say you're going to put a
liar.
memorial. My baby's
You're a
not
liar.
dead.
You are a liar.
My baby's not
You're a
dead.
liar.
My baby's not
You are
dead.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
No, you are.
You are.
My baby's not dead. I thought you
I
was a
didn't
woman of
say
God.
that.
I thought you were a woman of God.
I am.
You got Quinton?
You're the one that-
Do you have Quinton?
I don't have Quinton. You're the one
Maybe
that
you
texted
do.
me.
Maybe you do. You got him.
Okay.
You got him.
Well, I'm about to call the police.
You're the only one that can go in my house and take him. Your kids go in my house and take him all the
Oh
time.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We did not go in her house.
I want to see your on the news.
Oh, it's gonna be. Oh yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah, maybe we need to look at some green cards.
Yeah, we did. We did.
She's gonna put a memorial up in her yard. Quinton's not dead.
I didn't put a memorial
Lonnie's story about how Quinton disappeared didn't make sense from the beginning.
Out at 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't think that a child that small would come out the house.
Jerry says she hopes the verdict can bring closure.
I'm glad that she is, and I pray that she does not get out of jail anytime soon.
I mean, the day of, I couldn't even believe that a child was missing. There was no mother. I mean, I would have been outside screaming, crying, having everybody I know trying to find my child. It was really quiet here. That was strange.
I'm here. I've been here every day since this. I am not running and I'm not hiding. And if something does come up that I am at fault, I will take myself to that police station.
Lonnie says that she and her mother, Billy Howell, spend their days in the backyard of their home because it's too difficult to be inside with reminders of Quinton and the fact that he's gone.
Every day that goes by is less tears and more anger, not knowing what's happening, if that's even understandable. You wake up every day angry, hoping that you're going to get a phone call, and that phone call just doesn't come.
Great to come out of this, but mostly we want him not to be found in that landfill. We want him found
happy and alive. We want him back in our arms, holding us. That's what we want. We're just hoping that he's in somebody's house and they're feeding him, and they are hoping that, you know, maybe they wanted a baby or couldn't have a baby. Maybe they thought they were his savior. Well, it's not. That's their best hopes at this point.
Now, Leilani lived in a home on Boakhalter Road with her boyfriend, Daniel Youngkin, their daughter, Sky, Quinton, Quinton's 3-year-old brother, Zane, her brother, Paul Simon, and her mother and stepfather, Billy Joe and Thomas Howell, who owned the home. However, Billy Joe, who was out of town the day Quinton went missing, wanted Leilani and Daniel evicted from the house. She filed for eviction on September 8, 2022, stating that she just wanted them and the 3 kids to leave due to the damage to her property and no one was living in peace. The two argued and fought all the time. September 26, 2022, Leilani receives the eviction notice. 2 days later, a judge ordered Leilani to start paying child support for Quinton and Zane.
It's been crazy. I mean, we don't know nothing. Whether it's the answers we want to hear or answers we don't want to hear, we just want to know something. My concern is him, and that's all it is. I mean, we concerned with his well-being.
I know everybody worked really hard yesterday, but
And
I want them to keep working hard.
And we appreciate everything that everybody has done, all the people that's come out and searched for him and all that. And he's always smiling. He's a happy kid. I mean, you get some kids but he always had a big smile on his face, and he was always happy.
Let me ask you, why are you getting emotional?
Because he's not here. He's just a baby, and I want him home. He's just a baby. Leilani's my daughter. She's 22. She hasn't always done the right things, and sometimes she does really great, and sometimes she doesn't. And I don't know what to think right now. I don't know what to believe, because I don't think anybody ever believes that this is going to happen to them. I don't know if I can trust her or if I don't.
I mean,
I just know I'm hurting, and I want this baby home.
We want answers, and we don't have answers.
Just thank you to everybody that's helped.
Thank you for everybody that's looked for him,
and please don't stop looking.
Yeah, like I say, we want answers. We want to find him. That's the answer we want, is somebody found him. You know, we're still hoping and praying, and we wish everybody to pray for him. Pray for us.
Yes.
Daniel admitted that he routinely drank and did drugs and would get mad at Leilani for not returning home quick enough with the drugs and irritated if she did not share the drugs she purchased. Leilani was often feeling unloved and neglected by Daniel. Just a few months before Quinton's disappearance, she made a 4-minute suicide video message to Daniel expressing how she knew that he did not feel the same way about her as she did for him. Also, she sent text messages to Daniel prior to Quinton's disappearance reflecting how distraught she was over their broken relationship. She talked about the lack of intimacy and affection he had for her, so much that she contemplated suicide. She ended the video with a plea to him to take care of her kids.
Mama tried. And Mama's not here no more because she doesn't love you. I do. I can't love myself. If I can't love myself, how can I love y'all? I have tried over and over and over and I failed. I screamed for help and I don't get it. This guy, you are such a beautiful little girl. I wish I could watch you grow up. I wish I could hold you for your first heartbreak because my mama didn't. Sky, I love you, baby girl. And Zane, you were so handsome, so sweet, so protective. You were gonna be such a good man one day. Just a good man. I hope you grow up and you learn what loyalty is. And you learn how to treat a woman and how to love a woman. And Quinton, baby, you are a middle child. You're so happy all the time. You smile all the time. I wish I could see what kind of man you would be too. And Danny, I loved you. I loved you with all of me, all of my heart. I loved you. I wish that the ground you walked on, when we found each other, we were both in such fragile states. And I built you back up. I would do anything for you. But during this time that I was building you back up, you were doing things that would eventually tear me back down. And even now, after everything that I think has been brought to the light, hopefully it was everything, right? Even now, you look at me with the same look in your eyes that you have when you talk about Caitlin. I don't hear the love in your voice anymore. I don't feel the love in your touch anymore. And I definitely don't see the love in your eyes anymore. If you truly loved me like you claimed you did, you wouldn't have done all that. Even when I was carrying your child and hating myself every day, crying myself to sleep every night because you did not want to have sex with me. You did not want to love me. You just did not want me. And I wanted you. I wanted you more than I wanted
Daniel felt that there was nothing left in the relationship with Leilani and that he was only staying for Sky. He even agreed to let the FBI wire a hotel room with a camera and mic so they could listen in on his conversations with Leilani in the days following the disappearance of Quinton. Prosecutors played several clips during which Daniel pressed Leilani about going to get Orgel in the middle of the night, prompting her to become defensive and combative. Leilani craved male attention the way most people crave oxygen. October 4th, 2022 was a tough day for her. She was being rejected by Daniel and feeling bad about herself, and she had a wisdom tooth pulled and was in pain. GPS data suggested she went to Arkwright Road to see Craig, aka Red, before midnight on October 4th. But when he wasn't there, she left, not receiving the male attention she so craved. Instead, she purchased Percocet and cocaine from Craig's cousin. She goes back home, and the drugs she did that night intensified her foul mood, and in the early mornings of October the 5th, she killed the son she hated and disposed of his body in a dumpster at the trailer park where she expected he would never be found. A FBI agent testified that Leilani did not seem shocked when police started searching the landfill for the toddler's remains. Prosecutors called 36 witnesses and almost 100 pieces of evidence as they presented their case. In the opening statement, they acknowledged that they did not intend to prove how Leilani killed her son, but simply that she had, outlining her drug use, her deteriorating relationship with Daniel, and her shifting stories following Quinton's disappearance to law enforcement. Defense attorney Martin Hilliard claimed that prosecutors failed to prove their case and had built their case on rumor and speculation.
I mean, I was a little shocked, to be honest with you. I mean, like anyone else, I mean, I didn't expect it to come back the way it did.
Martin Hilliard recalling the moment his client, Leilani Simon, became a convicted murderer after a 2.5-week trial that saw around 40 witnesses and 100 pieces of evidence presented solely by the prosecution. Walk me through that decision not to call any of your own witnesses to the stand.
In a case like this that's purely circumstantial, where they don't know what happened, where they don't have a manner or method of death, where they don't have any clear idea of how, when, or why, the death occurred, why give the jury anything other to base their verdict on than the evidence or lack of evidence from the state?
Hilliard and his co-counsel, Robert Peirce, zeroed in on what they call a lack of physical evidence from the prosecution when they were cross-examining witnesses. During the trial, they also cast doubt on Daniel Youngkin, Simon's then-boyfriend, who was also in the home when Quinton disappeared. The prosecution, at times, however, painting Youngkin as a sympathetic figure.
He made himself a cooperating witness. So no, doesn't surprise me.
Do you believe that the police should have looked closer at him?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I don't sit here and pretend to know what happened, but that's kind of their job. It's not to make a decision, 15 minutes into an investigation.
Hilliard says at this point he and his team are looking down the road at the appeal process. They'll ask that an appellate lawyer be appointed to oversee the appeal, including a motion for a new trial.
It's always good to have a fresh set of eyes to do that. They'll argue the motion for new trial, and if it's granted, then it's granted at the trial court level, then she'd get a retrial. If it's denied at the trial court level, then it goes to the Georgia Supreme Court, and the Georgia Supreme Court will hear. But there are certain issues and certain things you have to preserve at the motion for new trial level. And so that's why I always have another lawyer do it who specializes in, appellate issues.
The defense did not call any witnesses, and Leilani declined to testify on her behalf. However, after 8 days of testimony, the jury found her guilty of all 19 counts. At first, she stood silent as the guilty verdict was read out. But while jury members confirmed their decisions, tears started rolling down her face.
As to the verdict, it reads as follows. We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder, we find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder, we find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder, we find the defendant guilty. Count 4, concealing the death of another, we find the defendant guilty. Count 5, false report of a crime, we find the defendant guilty. Count 6, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 7, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 8, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 9, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 10, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 11, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 12, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 13, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 14, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 15, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 16, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 17, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 18, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty.